Okay, are we now live this time round? I hope we are, because I've just made the biggest mistake of, well, probably my entire commentary career. I'll get back to that later, but I do fully apologise, and hopefully we are now live on the right channel. This is probably one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. But, oh no, please don't tell me that's gone live. I'm not sure at the moment. I'm very confused, so I will be able to hopefully do this entire race. We still have 23 minutes of qualifying, so it's not like we missed too much. I'm just hoping now. I'm so sorry about this, guys. Oh, the fact is the first part of it went really, really smoothly as well. If I'm gonna... Did I do it wrong? Or have I been on the right... Okay, I am live. Boys, if someone could just text me that I'm live, that would be really, really great. Because at the moment, I'm not sure what's happening. I think... Greg, if you're watching and the stream key's gone bust, I had to make a new stream key. But anyway, getting back onto the qualifying here, as I know I'm actually live on the right account now. It does seem... Well, if you guys didn't know, which you probably wouldn't unless you were racing, Robert Jennings currently in the AMS class being able to take the lead with 154.952, then followed by Stickfoot in the McLaren 720S Evo with a 155.810. Then rounding up the top three for the AMS so far, and overall for the time being, Jeffrey Witter in the AF course, well, who actually just lost his position, but he did a 155.8, but taking P2 now provisionally is Enrico Itri, followed then by Stickfoot in P3. Alright, so what we do see now is we do see, it's the final 20 minutes of qualifying. We do see now the pros will start to be gathering out, as we do see now Vink, one of the pro drivers who's currently in pole position in terms of the pros and the silvers, but that is because none of the pros and AMS, or pros and silvers, have been able to do a qualifying just yet. Do you see them now all getting ready to start their first qualification timeshare? But we do go out and see what actually the AMS can perform with their final few minutes of qualifying, as we do see James Terry in P6 at the moment with a 3.5 to nearly 4/10 gap. Well, personal best improvement at the moment, but losing quite a bit of it going into turn 8 then. This is where the Aston Martin will struggle a tiny bit, but it does seem he's been able to gain quite a bit of time there, trying to just create, well, just dig along that gap a tiny bit. But with Robert Jennings' time with a 154.9, it doesn't seem any of the AMS are being able to get close to it, and I'm wondering if any of the pros will be able to out-qualify him as well, because it seems like quite a bit of a good time now, and I assume Robert Jennings might be in the field of both the pros and the AMS, as we do see on board with Vink in the Aston Martin. He seems to be quite unlucky with traffic here. This is where we will start that queuing, as we do see Daniel Montero going on to his first lap here, going through turn 2 now. He is already about a 10th of his best lap time, but is it going to be enough just yet? I'm not actually sure if he's on for a lap just yet, even though it's saying that he's on for a lap. I'm not sure if he is, but it does seem now everyone will start to be queuing up ready for the start of this. Do you see a few of the drivers now getting ready to do their first flying laps? As we already see, there is a slow car going on the right of the screen, but we do now wait until to see what the pros can do, if any of the pros can beat that 154.9, which seems like quite a fast lap time. And I think what I saw P2 in the free practice server was doing a low 54, so it's going to be close for some of the AMs. As we do see there's a Ferrari 296 in the barrier already there. Not sure what's happened there, but we do see Vink now going for his first flying lap, going in to the first corner, as it does seem he is, well, I can't really judge anything just yet, but he does seem to be able to take it quite clean so far. It doesn't seem anyone is improving just yet compared to their free practice times. But in terms of what we do see now, we do see Blackick in the McLaren 720S Evo already 3 times up in his first best lap time since free practice, so he's actually making quite a major improvement, only going in to turn 2 there. I'm not actually sure what's happening in terms of qualifying at the moment. I have seen now Greg Ellis in the PLR Esports Ferrari 296 is currently a second and a half up on his best lap time. If he did actually set his quickest potential lap in free practice, we'll have to find out, as we do see Greg Ellis now coming across the line to go up into P3 with a 155.1, so not being able to overtake the AMs just yet. But we do see Propeller, who was the fastest driver in free practice, with a 154.1, so those times is significantly quicker than Robert Jennings' 154.9, but it's still quite close, as we do see a lot of the silvers now intervening with those AMS times, as we see now Declan Brogan in the Xbox Racing Lamborghini currently in P4 with a 155.3 dead at the moment, but is improving about 2 tenths of his name going through turn 3 to turn 4. In fact, it's gaining quite a bit of time on braking. That is the speciality with these Lamborghinis. Gets a bit unsettled there on the sausage curb, which does lose him a tiny bit of time, but he's able to recover it. But going through now turn 5 and 6, he is losing a tiny bit of time. He doesn't want to be losing time going into this corner, because if he can gain time, that is brilliant, because it's such a long straight. And in fact, he is losing a tiny bit of time, but it's not too much. In fact, he is gaining and then losing, so it's fluctuating quite a bit for him. But Greg Ellis in the PLR Esports car once again improving, trying to get closer to Robert Jennings' car in positions at the moment. Currently in P3, trying to hunt down P2. Currently with 155.142, and then we do see Robert Jennings with a 154.9. So it's very close between both of them. If he's able to maintain this delta, which he currently has about 3 tenths to his name, he will be able to overtake Robert Jennings, and he could potentially put a tiny bit of pressure there on Arlavi. As we do now see Nico going across the line in the Brotherhood Racing Aston Martin, taking himself up into P3 momentarily, but then Arlavi retaking his position into P3, and then Nico into P4. But we do see Dean Zunobovic in the Mercedes AMG Team Group PM Racing, god, that is a long name, currently in P1 for 153.8, taking the lead away from Propeller, who was the free practice winner in terms of position so far, but it does seem there's now about a 3/10 gap between P1 and P2, which is actually quite a big gap if you think about it. Dean once again trying to improve in this time. It's very fractionable at the time being, but he is only into the fair part of what seems to be Sector 2, nearly Sector 3. That does seem to be very, very close as it is, well, to track limits as it is. Out of track limits, as we can see him pulling over, trying to get some fresh tyres and some more fuel in his cars, because all of these cars will be running minimal fuel probably. Some of the fast guys and the people who are just trying to get the fastest lap time they can will probably be running about 3 laps of fuel, maybe 3.5 laps, 1 for an out lap, and then 3 hot laps, and then they will go back to pits and change tyres, because tyres today, we don't have any sort of mandatory tyre allocation, so there is about 50 tyres that you can use here tonight. Just checking my audio with it now. It seems to be I balanced it a tiny bit better, because it did seem I was a bit on the higher side. But we do now see Black Kick once again trying to dominate going into Sector 3. Now it does, well no, Sector 2 actually, as he goes onto the long straight with about 5/10 to his name, trying to decrease the gap between him and the leader. Currently a second dead at the moment compared to him and Dean, who's in the lead with a 154.9 by Blackick, and then a 153.887 by Dean. So there is obviously that second, but can he decrease that time, and can he actually try to put some pressure on Greg Ellis and potentially even Nico if he's able to maintain this lap? As we do also go back down to Zurikik, I think that's how you say it, currently in P14 overall. As we do see Robert Jennings now starting to lose his, well, precious positions you could say, but still being able to keep up with the Pro and Silver order at the moment. But Ivo looking to take that away with a 3/10 gap to his name at the minute, with a 155.080 as his best lap time so far. Ten minutes left of qualifying. We do see he is getting closer to that 6/10 mark. In fact, he has just reached that boundary, but losing a tiny bit of time on exits. We do see he might encounter a bit of traffic, which will affect his lap time either way, because the dirty air will make it a bit worse for him. But do we see the Aston Martin letting him go? I'm not too sure just yet, as it does seem he's still trapped behind what seems to be, I'm going to think that's not Maguire, because he's in pit. That has to be, no, it's not Nico. I'm not sure who that is who's holding him up. But they are going to go side by side towards the line though. Ivo, unfortunately, going to lose quite a bit of time on the exit there, as we do now see him going across the line with a, well, unfortunately, it's a 154.9, losing about 3 or 4 tenths of his time to a, well, it wasn't even a back mark. It was just a person who was on an invalid lap and just didn't let him go, unfortunately. And it does seem now Victor in the PE racing in the McLaren 720. It's Evo in P10 and car number 10, so that is quite rare. But he is looking to actually challenge the leader now with about 5/10 to his name at the moment. 6.5 tenths needed to catch up with the leader. Dean still in the lead with that 153.8. He's trying to improve, but Black Kick now very, very close on his shoulder with just under a tenth between the both, with a 153.982. So there is very, very little between the both there, as we do see Victor now going through the final corner. Is he going to be able to keep this lap time? He is losing a tiny bit of time on exit there, but he still comes across the line, but it's an invalid lap time. It would have been a 154.1 there That would have been a yeah, it would have been a 154.1 for him, but unfortunately it was invalid, so he has to take that lap time again. That lap time would have been able to put him, well, closer, well, to P3 actually, which is quite an improvement to say the least. Going further up though, Robert Alavi in the Ferrari 296 currently in P4, looking to take the lead away from Dean Zunderbovic, who's currently 4.5 tenths up in his personal lap time. All he needs is 3.5 tenths to take pole position away, so he is on for the fastest lap time of the day if he's able to maintain this, as we do see him now going across the final corner. Is he able to maintain his... No, he's not. He loses all of his time on the final corner there, going from 5 tenths up to 5 tenths down very, very quickly there, unfortunately for him. But we do see now Victor, who is seeming to be into, well, the final parts of Sector 2, nearly Sector 3 there. Currently 6.5 tenths to their name, trying to get closer. In fact, he is looking to take pole position away from, well, Propeller, who's been able to, well, get by once again with a 153.795. So there's still a thread of a needle between P1 and P2 with a 900th of a second between them both. We do now see Victor coming across the line. Is it going to be valid time? If it is valid, he is just going to be shy off pole. So he comes across to do a 153.865 with a 700th of a second gap between P1 and P2. Very, very close shit for these two, but we do see the top three has actually been regained by Dean Zunderbovic, who's went across and done a 153.737 to now regain pole position. 6 minutes left of qualifying. Can we see Propeller or Victor try to take this back from him? And it does seem Propeller is the closest at the moment with about 500th of a second between them both. Victor is very close on the tail as well. Going further down now, we do see Ed going through the final corner, is about 3 tenths up. This will put him up quite a few positions as he comes across the line now to go up to P5 with a 154.07. Oh, Almstrom as well going on to the long straight here before, well, entering into Sector 3, I believe now. He's able to keep this up, he will be closer to pole position than ever before, but he does lose a lot of his time now, unfortunately, going on to the exit of turn 10 now, I believe that is, but he is still able to have about a 10.5, nearly 2 tenths to his name still. He will be able to go further and further up in the order, but he won't be as close to pole as he originally would have been. But going through the final corner now, is he able to try and regain any of that time? He is able to try and gain a tiny bit back, going across the line with a 2.5 tenth gap to his name, going up into P6 for 154.117, which is the fastest lap time for the day for him so far. But we do see now Ed once again trying to get closer to the lap time that he was originally come through the final corner. He does lose a lot of his time on the exit there, unfortunately, and it's going to be a red delta time for him in the end, as we only have 3 minutes left of qualifying, so it's about enough time for one hot lap if you're able, or depending on the well, wherever you're on track. Vel, we haven't seen that much today, currently in that Reiter engineering car down in P21, currently 2 tenths up in this first lap time. If he's able to take this lap time, he might be able to put a bit of pressure there on Daniel Montero. in P18 in the Honda with a 155.2 by Daniel, and currently with a 155.3 by Vild. So there's not much between them both. It's about a tenth and a half, maybe a bit more. Come through the final corners now. Still gaining that time. In fact, he is looking quite a bit better to try and even put a bit of pressure there on Eric Maggiero in the 37 Aston Martin as he comes across the final corner. Can he use his Writer Engineering breaks to his advantage? Yes, he kind of is. Losing quite a bit of time on exit though. Can he still put pressure on Daniel Montero? He loses a lot of time to the line. In fact, he loses pretty much all of his time. Barely being able to set a personal best lap time with 155.3. But he still has 1 or 2 laps to be able to try and put a bit more pressure back on them both. Eric Maggiero now 5 tenths up ish on his personal best lap time in P16 with a 154.9 as his fastest lap so far, as he is going to be able to go, well, potentially all the way up into P12 if he's able to get this lap time validated, as in fact he does lose a tiny bit of his time on the exit there, but he is still going to be on top there for him, as we do see now him coming through the penultimate corner. Still about 3.5 tenths from his best lap time. Can he gain any more time going into the final corner? Yes, he is. He's going to gain about a tenth, but he does lose a tiny bit of his time on the exit, but he's still going to be able to set a faster lap time than he ever did, but it's not going to be a valid lap time now, I don't think. It's not going to be a valid lap time, so that is why he doesn't improve at all. Zorkic is well going through some of the final corners. In fact, the penultimate corner coming up now, as he has about a tenth and a half to his name, will be enough to actually put him up into P13 and take P13 away from Chris Broadman in the number 13 Mercedes. Goes across the final corner, gets quite a decent exit, and actually gains quite a bit of time from his line now as he does come across the line, and he does go into P13 with 154.6 and about just about a tenth and 200th of a second to Declan Brogan ahead of him. Eric Maggiero is currently going on to the long straight that this is. Currently gaining quite a bit of time though, so this is the luxury of still gaining time onto this long straight, because you can gain probably close to about 200th of a second just by going in a straight line if you get the exit of the final corner before the long straight right. As he is 4 tenths up in his first last lap time, this will put him quite far up in the order. Well, actually, if he's able to do this, he might be able to go up into P13 and even put a bit of pressure on Declan Brogan in P12 as well. In fact, he is gaining rapid amounts of lap times going through the fast corner is lap 8, but he goes off track, so I'm assuming he invalidated it going on to turn 8 as he does go back to pits there as well. Not many other people improving. Alavi though trying to dig that gap as well to the lead. In fact, if he's able to keep this lap time now, he might be able, or he goes very wide there, he's going to lose a lot of his lap time because of that, and goes on to long straight now. He is losing all of his lap time, so he'll probably be going to the red lap or red delta before the end of this straight now, unfortunately there for him. Managed to save the green delta, but he is still flatlining the green delta at the moment, as we do see now. Propeller still not being able to get closer to Dean Zunobovic, who's currently in P1 with a 153.337 that was set in the previous laps, with now Propeller looking to be predicted of a 153.652. If my maths is correct there. He does go across the fast right-hander of turn 8. Does gain a lot of time on turn 8, but loses a bit of time on turn 9. He gains quite a bit on the exit. Is this going to be the major of his lap? Does seem it might be, as he's down to the red delta now. Can he try gain this time back going into the final few corners? This will be his final lap to try and make any sort of dent between him and Dean Zunobovic. I nearly bold that name as well. Goes across the final corner. He's not going to be able to maintain that lap time. As we do now go on to the race now. This is actually going to be quite an interesting race by just looking at how close all of these cars are together in terms of times at the moment. It is going to be a nighttime race, which is something that a few of these drivers might be better in. It is a significantly more, well, colder track than it was during qualifying, so that is going to make it a bit difficult for the drivers. But while we wait in terms of drivers to do their setups, we will hop on with a track walk as we go back onto the game. As we do see currently in P1 is now, well, is Dean Zondabovic, then followed them by Propeller in P2, and then running up the top three for tonight in terms of qualifying is Victor in the McLaren 720S Evo, then Elmstrom being able to take P4, then Blackake in P5, Arlavi and Edda taking P6 and P7 in the Ferrari 296 and the McLaren 720S Evo, Nico and then Kukovic in P8 and 9 in the Aston Martin, and then the Mercedes car number 24. Then rounding up the top 10 is Vink in the Aston Martin AMR V8, and then Greg Ellis in the PLR Esports Ferrari 296. Then followed them by Declan Brogren and Chris Broadman in the Lamborghini, and then the Mercedes, and then Ivo Zorovic, and then Vil currently in, well, a car I don't think I'll ever get used to saying, it's the Writer Engineering, and then Robert Jennings, the highest scoring AM, currently in P1 in AM class and is now, well, P16 overall. Then it's Eric Maguro on the right side in the 37 number Aston Martin, and then Tom Week in the Ferrari 296 number 7, and then taking out the top 20 is Daniel Montero in the Honda and Jeremy Swanson, I believe it is, in the Mercedes. Then it's Halavac, Mitchell and James Terry taking out the top 23. We do have a few cars that I won't be able to name because it's not on my sheet. We do now start back up with what is going to be the 22 of Stick Vort, which is on our left there. That is going to be the Golf McLaren 720S Evo, then followed by Jeremy Witter in the Ferrari 296, then Liam Burrow in the black Ferrari 296, then followed by one of the only Porsches in the races is Buttons in the 31 numbered Porsche 992, followed then by Dabrowski, Itri and Osric Major rounding out then the top 33. And then going further on, we do see Reverick, Sremovic, Ricardo Colombo and Brian taking out the top 36. Then now Halavac, Rally Stas and Breen rounding out our entire order here for tonight. So it's actually quite a large pack for, I know we're still quite early into the season, you could say, but in terms of how many cars there are, it is still quite surprising how many are still here, because some people, it's always inevitable during, well, the first few rounds that we will have a few retirements. There has been a few retirements, some for more, well, unwilling options than others, some having some rig issues, some just not being able to find the time to race, and then obviously sometimes you get some just rage quit retirements, which is always a shame, but it does usually happen in most leagues. You do see a few leagues actually implementing what is a league ban. I'm not sure how long a league ban for. Is it I think it might be is it Low Fuel Motorsports that does that? I think it might be that they just give you, I think it's like maybe a 3-month league ban for a no-show, I believe it is. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but that is something that a few leagues have been implementing because of that issue, but there is no rule about that in Pro League racing to my knowledge. But we do get ready now to go, well, to get ready to go green for the formation up for tonight's race. full 40 car grid here tonight, which is one of the highest car grids we've had so far. I think in terms of last race, I think we only had 39 cars. So we have gained a car since the start of the season. So we do now see 2 seconds, 1 second, and we are now off for the formation lap. Quite a long formation lap. Will take us about 3 or 4 minutes to get around the entire track. Do you now see Dean Zonobovic has gone. It's going to be a night race. It is 3:15 AM so far. It will be probably closer to about maybe 4:22 maybe in terms of finishing time, depending on how long this formation lap will be for us. And the time multiplier, I assume the time multiplier is just the same as real life. You see, it is going to be very, very cold track compared to what these drivers were used to in qualification. It is a 19-degree track and a 19-degree ambience, so it's still quite a relatively nice track temperature for these drivers. But compared to what they were used to in qualifying of about 36, 37 degrees track, it is definitely something a bit more difficult compared to what they're, well, unless their tyre pressures have all been set nicely, it might be quite a smooth sailing for quite a few of these drivers. But if your your tyre pressures aren't done quite nicely, you might be suffering for a lot of this race. Do you see, we approach the end of the long straight for the formation lap. We do also see there is a pit requirement, as I stated earlier into the broadcasting, that you probably wouldn't have heard if you weren't watching then, but it is going to be a mandatory fuel requirement for the pit stop of a minimum of 1 litre, so you can just theoretically do that splash and dash and do a 3-second pit stop. But optional tyres, so you don't actually have to worry about tyres. Usually tyres will last an hour quite easily and happily. And on a cool track as well, it shouldn't be too much of an issue for the drivers. Obviously there will be a performance drop off during probably the final quarter or so of the stint, where the drivers' times will go down. Probably, I'm not going to say how much because I'm not really sure. It depends on the driver's aggression during the first part of the race. But it all does make the difference compared to your driving style. If you're an aggressive driving style, or if you're quite a gentle and smooth driving, it all does make the difference in terms of your tyre wear. So do you now see the drivers go into the side-by-side configuration to start this race of round 2? Do you see 40 cars going to be lined up here going into turn 1? Going to be a bit more of an interesting race here for them. But for Dean Zonobovic, he might be able to have quite an easy first start to the race, or it could be quite difficult. I'm not going to start making prejudgments just yet, but compared to what we were seeing, it might be also quite difficult for him. So do you go on to the start-finish straight to start now to go green for round 2 here at Paul Ricard for season 2 of the World Tour here at Pro League Racing, as we should be going green anytime now, as we will see about 40 cars going all the way up to turn 1, hopefully cleanly, as we do go on board with Dean Zonobovic at the moment, who's able to try and keep the inside line going into turn 1, which is a major advantage point there for him, as we do see there's going to be 3 wide in the background, but Dean Zonobovic is being able to take the lead quite comfortably. But we do see Ed now trying to go side by side with what seems to be Arlavi, but Arlavi being able to get past Ed for the time being, as we also now see going further back into the grid. There hasn't been too many issues. We do see, unfortunately, Vil having a bit of an issue, so we will just get a bit of... Oh, he gets sideswiped into the wall there, going into turn 2 by another driver, and that is going to be very unfortunate there for him, as he does have to now just wait and try to get past, and he is going to be losing quite a bit of time with that damage. I'm not sure how much damage he's going to have, but we do see it's going to be more carnage there. Seems to be a McLaren 720S of what I'm not sure who that is, going off into the gravel, it seems. But we do see now, again, Blackett trying to get closer to the other drivers in front of him, currently in P6 at the moment, which is quite good for him. Now, as we go further up, we do see our Lavi. Nothing's being able to change just yet for me, but it does see Magero going side by side with him going into turn 8. He isn't going to be able to get the move done just yet for him, as we do see now Ivo being able to catch up with what seems to be I think I'm not sure who's in front of him. It might be, is it Declan Brogan? Is Declan Brogan, or is it, I think it might be Kukovic. I think it is Alexander there in front of him. Losing a tiny bit of time there, but still manages to keep it for the time being, as we do see now going back down with Vil, trying to gain these positions as quickly as he can, going up into P29 at the time being, and going on to the final few corners of lap 1. We do see, unfortunately, what seems to be that's going to be James Seal with the first drive-through penalty of the race. So being able to get 3 track cuts in the span of half a lap is quite impressive, as he goes into the pits, whizzing the same with what seems to be James, Terry and Vink. I'm hoping these guys aren't for damage, and they are just trying to do the splash and dash early and try to get an undercut during the race, which is quite a good idea thinking of it. But we do see now Alan Breen going side by side with the BMW M4 of Halovac going into turn 1. Is he able to get the move done? It does seem he does break a bit later than his opponent, and he has been able to make quite a bit of a gap for himself already. Going further up now, we do see now Victor starting to have a tiny bit of breathing space here. He wants to try catch up with Propeller in front of him for P2, as he has set the fastest lap so far. It isn't really a reference point because everyone's been fighting, but he has done a 159.0, which isn't a reference time, as I just mentioned earlier, because everyone's been fighting. But going further down, Alavi's going to have the inside line going into turn 8. He gets the move done even before it, and it does seem now Nico goes down into P4, I think it is, P4, and then Nico going down to P5, which is going to cause a bit of retaliation here from Nico into the starting scenes of this race. But he has lost quite a bit of time there already compared to Alavi. It's actually, no, who is that? No, that's Elmstrom, sorry. That's going to be Elmstrom going into P5, and that's going to be Alavi going into P4 then. Being able to get closer, but he isn't going to be close enough just yet to retaliate. In fact, it does seem Alavi has the pace advantage here compared to Elmstrom. 56 minutes left to go. We do see a few of the drivers who have done their pit stops so far being in the no man's land area, but it does seem Dino Halovac in that BMW M4 has a bit of pressure from behind him of Jeffrey Witter in the AF course racing Ferrari 296, who is being able to gain quite a bit per lap at the moment. It does seem Dino's last lap was a 2:01.6, and Jeffrey's Jeffrey's was a 1:57.4, so there is quite a difference there between their last lap times. If Dino's was an anomalous lap time, we'll have to find out, but it does seem he is struggling compared to Jeffrey Witter in terms of sector 1 so far. He is trying to defend his position. Does seem though going through turn 3, he is going to just keep it for now, but if he just maintains this, well, this very, very close space he has to him, as we do now see Seremovic is our second victim of a drive-through penalty in the first 6 minutes of the race. But we do see how close now Jeffrey Witter actually is there to Dino Halovac, which is going to cause that slipstream to be very, very effective going down this very, very long straight. If he's going to bump draft, no, he is not. He's just going to go side by side and try to get this move done as quickly as he can. Having the inside line going into turn 8 will also help him very, very effectively, as he does still go tight side by side, very tight between them both, as he still has the advantage point. There's going to be contact between both of them, but Dino's being able to keep the car under control there after the little tap between they both had. It does seem it nearly tried reacting there, but it does seem Jeffrey Witter goes up into P25 and then Halivac goes down into P26. Now there is actually a bit of a fight for the lead going on already. We do see now Dean Zunobovic, who's currently leading this race, but we do see behind him who was very, very close towards him in terms of qualifying, which was a 154.4 last lap by Propeller and a 154.5 last lap by Zunobovic. So it does seem Propeller is being able to catch Dean Zunobovic so far going into first 7 minutes of the race, but will he be able to get past? Because I know getting close to him is one thing, but getting past him is another. In terms of the biggest winner and loser at the moment in terms of positions, unfortunately it seems there's quite a few people who have lost quite a few positions. Unfortunately though, Eded is currently the biggest loser in terms of positions, who has lost 32 positions since the start of this race. But since the start of this race as well, we do see the biggest winner does seem to be, as I'm just scoping it out, has to be Alan Breen, who's been able to gain 16 positions since the start of this race, followed closely then by Ricardo Colombo with 15. So there's very, very, well, a lot of opportunity going into the start of this race, as we do see that it's going to go side by side. It does seem Paul Michel is going to be able to have the inside line going into turn 8, but has a bit of a loose oversteer stat moment, it does seem. But it does keep Basto in the lead of this, will battle for the Broken Bones Sim Racing livery. Do you see now Halivac is trying to get the move done on Jeremy Swanson. He isn't going to be able to get it done just yet. In fact, when he's done that, he's actually lost the position there to what seems to be, is that no, I'm not sure who that is. That seems to be Jones, actually, Andrew Jones. But Andrew Jones having that very immense start to this race, that he is trying to get closer and closer as well to Jeremy Swanson for position going into P13, the unlucky number for some, as he gets quite a good exit there into turn 2, as he's all over the rear now of that Mercedes. He's going to go side by side going into turn 3. He breaks a tiny bit later. Is it going to be late enough? No, it is not. It's still going to be side by side. It takes a lot of the curve there. It's going to cause him to spin round there, and that's going to be Jeremy Swanson losing so many positions since the start of this race there, just because of the unsettlement of Andrew Jones's car going onto the sausage curb. However, we do see Dean Zunobovic has been able to take the purple lap once again with 154.245, but Popeller's best lap so far is a 155.4, so there is about a 2/10 difference between these two in terms of play so far. But Dean Zunobovic is currently under quite a bit of pressure. Can he stay under pressure for 50 minutes towards the end of the race? He might start feeling it a bit more than he is currently, but at the moment, Propeller's doing quite a good job just staying behind him and just putting pressure on him. Because pressure's the easiest way to get past a driver usually, but Dean is quite a talented driver, so he might be able to just cope with that pressure quite well, significantly better than what we'd see with other drivers. We've been going side by side then with James Terry for position as well, going into turn 8, as he has the inside line, as he does get it done quite effectively. But we do see the overspeed of the other Aston Martin goes very, very wide. They need to be very careful, as that is a very, very prone place to being able to get Track cuts quite easily, very vulnerable for the drivers, just underestimating how much time you can. You see, just going down that start finish straight, you can see how many drivers are actually there. 10 minutes into this race now, we do see the slipstream is becoming quite more significant here for Halovac, but he does seem to try go for the inside line. It's not going to be close enough for him just yet to get past Andrew Jones. Tiny bit of an oversteer moment there. You could see him just get an unsettlement of the car going into the final few corners, puts more pressure on him than he should be putting pressure on Andrew Jones, as we do see now Busto behind him being able to catch up quite a bit. Do you see now Elmstrom getting that quite good slipstream going into start finish straight? Is it going to be enough though? He is going to take the outside line into the first part of turn 1, which puts an advantage point there on Alavi, but it does seem Alavi breaks quite a bit later compared to Armstrong. He gets the better straight line speed going through the corner, and he just being able to get past that quickly due to just taking a right line. Can we see any sort of retaliation here from Alavi going on to the start, well, the long straight slash the back straight? It does seem he needs to try gain a tiny bit of time, Armstrong, to be able to break that slipstream, as it does seem he is able to do quite a bit going into the final corner before it. But we might see now Alavi catching up just tiny bits at a time going through this entire start finish straight. There is actually battle for the lead now, as we do see now Propeller trying to go side by side with him going into the final part of the start finish straight, as he is able to do going into turn 8. That isn't the start finish straight, as we do see now Propeller being able to get past Dean Zonobovic for position. Can we see any sort of retaliation here between these both? But it seems Propeller has been able to get past there. But we also see Robert Olavi trying to get past once again of Elmstrom in retaliation. He does have the inside line going into turn 8, 9 and 10, as he is able to keep it for the time being. As he does now keep it. Is any sort of retaliation back from Elmstrom? Yes, there is. He gets the inside line going into the penultimate few corners, as he does keep it for the time being. But now we do see Robert Alavi's still got to have the inside line, which is going to be an advantage for him. But he has great racing between these two, but it has lost them quite a bit of time to the car behind us. We do see Declan Brogan as well being able to catch up, go on to the next lap now, which might put a bit more pressure there on Alavi and Elmstrom. But we do now go on board with the wing cam, as we do see how much time he can actually gain with the slipstream by using the wing as a perspective. He is going to try and look for a lunge there. He does just put himself in the mirror to make sure he is present, and puts pressure on Alavi for a mistake. But at the moment, Alavi's being able to cast back away. Going back on with the lead battle here. It does seem Propeller still being able to maintain the lead for now. We do see though Dean Zonobovic is being able to catch up again, so I'm assuming there was a tiny bit of a mistake there from Dean that did cause Propeller to get by for the lead of the race. You see now the slipstream's going to help him quite a lot going into turn 8. Is he going to try and get close enough? He isn't going to be close enough. He is losing a tiny bit of time there, so quickly just transition you to the enter screen just for a tiny bit of time. It won't be for too long there, as we do go back on board with the race. So you do now see Propeller's being able to create quite a bit of a gap for himself there, as you can see on screen now in that just momentary time, as we did see there now, as Elmstrom well, looking to get back on Olavi once again. This has been happening for quite a bit of time now as we do go on the interior cam. He does seem to try and get the inside line going into turn 1. Is he going to break later? No, it doesn't. Olavi's going to challenge him in the brake mark, and he does keep it. Is this going to be a repeat of history? Does he just drive by? But this time it does seem Olavi's been able to learn from his mistakes and just breaks it late enough time that he's still being able to get a good time of it. But we do see now Paul Mitchell is being able to put more pressure on Halovic than ever as he's all over the rear of that Ferrari 296 going into turn 2. Does seem it gets a lot of a better line there then. Halovic going into turn, I think that's turn 5 or 6. Now going on to this long start finish straight, we could see Halovic under a bit of danger here as we can see how close Paul Mitchell actually is. And with that slipstream, as we can again use that wing for a reference to see how much time he actually gained under slipstream conditions. At the moment it doesn't seem to be enough, but now we do starting to see the effect of slipstream coming into the halfway part of the start finish straight. He doesn't gain enough time to even think about it unless he breaks later than Halovic. So remember with Halovic, it doesn't seem Paul Mitchell's been able to get past just yet. He is still under a bit of pressure, but we do also see now Eric Magiro will have a lot of pressure here going on to the start finish straight. Does seem the slipstream's going to start taking place about now as he's going to try go for the inside line going into turn 8. It's not going to work though. He has to back off. Eric Magiro getting a bit loose though going into the start of turn 8. He does go very wide there. If that's going to be track limits, I'm not too sure. I know you can take quite a bit of the wide area going into that corner there, but we do see now it's going to be 3 wide almost, as we do see now Magiro losing the position now to what seems to be, well, that is going to be Halovic behind him side by side going into the final few corners. There's going to be contact between both of them. That is going to cause him to lose the position to Halovic and Paul Mitchell now as he goes wide to try and maintain that position. You need to be very careful on how many track limits he's actually using at the moment. That does seem he is using quite a significant rate at the moment. It does seem now Halovic's been able to get past safely. It's just almost a bit of contact between both of them, as it does seem again Eric going very wide. That will most likely be a track limit there for him. And that is going to be Halovic going into P13, Eric Magiro into P14, and we could actually see this change again as we do see now going on to turn 1. A bit of a later break there from Paul Mitchell and Bastow. He gets very close there to the back of Eric Magiro, though almost hitting him there, Paul Mitchell. Eric in a very vulnerable place of losing another 2 positions here if Paul Mitchell's not going to be able to get past quick enough. and they're going to be battling for quite a while, it does seem, at the moment. Does seem a tiny bit of a mistake there from Eric Maguire. It does now. Big Basto all over the back of him now, as we do see actually Paul Mitchell being able to get by. I didn't see when that happened, but now it does seem Eric Maguire is having to try and defend from Basto to try and not lose 3 positions in the span of 3 laps then. Can't see him on the interior cam just yet. It does seem the Vias is just blocking it a tiny bit. Does seem though going back on board with the leader, which is now Philip Propeller, since the 5 or so minutes ago. We do see now Dean is actually starting to get the motivation to try get back with the leader, with a 154.2 with the best lap so far for him. They are going to be using their tyres at, well, probably quite a significant rate compared to the rest of the drivers. Can Propeller do the thing that Dean wasn't able to do just yet, which is play under pressure? Let's see now, Armstrong's being able to maintain with Alavi once again, but because of these 2 battling, it has caused Nico to actually catch up quite a lot as well. Does seem losing a few of the battles already, which isn't promising, but nearly halfway left of this race, going further up as well. Staying on board with Nico at the moment, because it seems to still be the closest battle on track, as it does seem Dean Zunabovic is losing a bit of time there to Philip Propeller. With now it's an 8-tenth gap between P1 and P2. It's actually 9 tenths now, just keeping a live commentary with it. But he is starting to lose time. It does seem Dean is the faster driver, but it does seem Propeller is being the more consistent one at the moment. Armstrong under pressure once again with the slipstream going in to the long straight now, going to the end of it, going into turn 8. We are going to see a significant catch up there from Nico, but it's not going to be close enough to even think of going for a move just yet. With safety, they both go wide. That is still in track limits, I believe. We do now see Nico starting to drop off a tiny bit as he tried to get a tiny bit eager. I'm getting past the Blackick now, losing the position to to the Tom Week in the previous corners of turn 8 there. But we do see there's going to be retaliation there, as we do see Tom goes quite wide there, which does keep Blackick in his place of P10 for now. See now, unfortunately, what seemed to be in the final few corners, but of what seemed to be sector 2, it does seem Victor was awarded a drive-through penalty there for track limits. That's going to be the 4th person to get a drive-through penalty this race, and that's going to put him significantly down in your orders. We now see Robert Olave getting to get a guaranteed P3 for at least a part of the race, it does seem, but is he going to be able to get past cleanly for position? But we do now see Blackick once again in retaliation with Tom Week. It does seem Tom Week's retaliation was able to get past and keep P10 once again. Blackick though got to try retaliate. Doesn't seem he's going to be able to, as we do also see then Andrew Jones just having to stay behind as well. But all 3 of these drivers are quite separated with each other now, it does seem. Do now see Victor having to go into the pit, which does promote Robert Levy up into P3, but we do now see Elmstrom trying to duke out Robert Levy for position, but it isn't going to work for him just yet. Vil under a bit of pressure here from Vink for position. They actually make a bit of contact between each other there. It does seem Vil is kind of struggling in the Rider to keep stableness with the suspension of the Rider, but it does seem now Vil's going to have the inside line going into turn 8, which does keep the position. They're going to be contact between both of them, and it's going to cause Rider to just go spinning into turn 8, but manages to avoid any sort of extra contact, and it does seem Vink is going to wait for him there and keep Vil to keep his position there. But we do also see Chris Broadman on Ricardo Colombo there. Does seem now the slipstream might help Ricardo Colombo out quite significantly here going in to the back straight, which it has, and Chris Broadman's going to have the turn 8 advantage of the inside line, and he is going to keep it for now, it seems. But going into the end of it now, is it going to seem Ricardo's going to recover with the top end speed? Yes, it is. Chris Broadman having to back out because his top end speed isn't as great as Ricardo's Ferrari 296 at time being, but it does seem it's going to be a bit of retaliation once again. Chris Broadman getting the right line going into turn 9 now, which does cause him to be all over the rear, and a bit of a juke there going into turn 10 as well. But he loses a bit of time there, just trying to think of the move where he's going to go there, and he does now find himself still behind Ricardo for the next few laps or so. Does seem there's a bit of a better overspeed there for Chris Broadman on the exit, but it isn't going to be good enough just yet to get past Ricardo Colombo. But in terms of the slipstream, it does seem he's going to be able to go side by side with him now. Going into turn 1, having the inside line, it does seem he's going to brake later, getting past Ricardo Colombo pretty easily and quickly there. Do you then see, I think that is Andrew going into the pit, or is it Halivac? I think it might be Halivac actually going into the pit to do his mandatory pit stop there. 29 minutes left of the race. There are still quite a few battles happening on track. Magiro, though, under a bit of pressure now from Jeremy Swanson as well behind him. You know, who is that? Is that Victor? That does seem to be Victor. I'm not sure what's happening here. But it does seem now Magiro is being able to maintain P11 if he's able to put any sort of pressure there on Jeremy Swanson for position. But at the moment, he has higher priorities of trying to maintain P9 going through turn 1 from Victor. It did go from P11 to P9 due to two people of Itri and Colombo both going into the pits to serve their mandatory pit stop. P15 all the way to the lead haven't done their pit stop apart from Propeller. Propeller has just gone into the lead, which has, well, not, Propeller has just gone into the pit, losing his lead position for now. Dean Zunbovic now in the lead. As we do see, there's a bit of issues going on with those two cars, as we saw the BMW just making a bit of a move there on the McLaren, but we do see now Elmstrom once again trying to get past Alavi now for P2, the silver plate positionings. We do see Alavi has a bit of a worse run going into turn 9, which does lead to again Elmstrom having this same repeated loop of being very, very close to the back of Alavi. But we also see now, because of these two being very, very close in terms of battling, it has caused Nico to actually catch up as well quite significantly, so they need to be very, very careful on how much they actually battle with each other, because they can lose quite a bit of time with each other. Declan Brogan all over the back of Andrew Jones here now for position as well. BMW M4 with the Lamborghini of the K-Pax Racing as he gets the slipstream, but obviously the Lamborghini is the weakest car in the straight line speed, which is going to be a bit more difficult to try and get past. He takes the inside line going into turn 8, but he has went for the inside line very, very early there. Is he going to be able to keep it? It doesn't seem he is being able to. Yes, he is. He breaks quite a bit later as well going into turn 8, which does require he does just get the move done quite easily and quite swiftly there. Go on to the next one. Declan Brogan being currently what seems to be net P3 at the moment. P4, P3. Because all of the other drivers haven't actually pitted just yet. So it's actually, yeah, net P3 at the moment. If he can maintain that position, I'm hoping he can. Few of the battles going, but Elmstrom once again trying to get past Alavi. He's not been able to just yet. He's looking at every possible move he might be able to do if Alavi makes a tiny bit of a mistake. But Alavi's been able to place his car quite well to the point where he's not being able to get past there. Elmstrom. Seem a bit of traffic there getting in the way, but Robert Alavi's being able to hold P2 for now, but Elmstrom as well, just again still right behind him for position, but it's actually starting to increase the gap now. Alavi still 5-6 tenths, but I think that was traffic that made a bit of a factor there as well. It's obviously the time multiplier is quite high, which has caused it now to become 5:13, and as we can see now, it's a new dawn and a new day in France here, as it's getting very, very close to fully light, as it's now 5:13 in game time, as we are just starting to see light creep in on the track, which is going to make it easier for the drivers in terms of visibility. Do you see now once again Elmstrom just getting very close in terms of the slipstream, but can we see Alavi being able to hold it for the rest of the race, because he also needs to pit as well though for, well, his fuel as well. But we do see a blue flag coming into play as well. That will be for what seems to be that Ferrari. in the background. I think getting a drive-through penalty, well, pretty much instantly compared to when I saw it just then. That's not English, but we'll go with it. Vil behind him as well, being able to potentially gain this position from Vint, having to do that extra pit stop. He's under a bit of pressure here from Halovac, as we also now see Chris Broadman getting a drive-through penalty. That will be the 5th and 6th drive-through penalty we have seen today. Both of them having to go into the pit. This is going to cause Vil to go up into P16, because the drive-through penalty around this track, I believe, is about 25 to 30 seconds, so it is quite a hefty time penalty to think about it. 22 minutes left to go. Some of these drivers will be on the final track limits now, as we do see now Halovac getting that slipstream, going into the back straight. Most drivers, as I say, back will be on that 3rd drive-through, well, not drive-through, track limit warning, so they will have to be a bit more cautious of taking the track racing line. Propeller now retaking the fastest lap time of 1:54.1, so he has been able to actually gain time. If he's been, well, has he changed tires? I reckon he has. No, he hasn't changed tires, so those tires are still working well for him. Dean's best lap time was a 1:54.245, so there is, well, not that much of a difference between them in lap times, currently fighting for P1 and 2, these two drivers. But it does seem Philip was able to nail his pit stop. Can Dean do the same thing and make it quite a close battle to the end of the race? As we do see, it's now 21 minutes left to go. We haven't seen Dean come into the pit just yet, which does mean he might be taking it to the absolute last minute. Just two drivers that we don't see too often fighting. We are missing a few of the other fast drivers, as I think it was Conrad, one of the drivers who did have to retire from the league due to a seat issue. But that is going to put less of a threat on Dean and Propeller for the championship. So we're learning soon. Hope they will not fall out at the end. We'll have to see how this race goes, to be honest, but they seem to be calm enough with each other. Go Blackick, Blackick supporter. Currently Blackick in P7 with the McLaren Racing WRC Team Croatia, I assume it is. Currently now in P7, which is quite a good position here for Blackick. Hasn't done his pit stop just yet. But that's all the way up to P10 as well. 20 minutes left to go. He is putting a bit of pressure. What seems to be on the Ferrari. Now the Ferrari is going to be a back marker. The cars in front will be for position there, which is going to be Ivo, which is further up into the distance, as you can see on the track map on the right hand side of the screen. Tom Week going side by side here with Jeffrey Witter for position, going into the penultimate corner now. It does seem Tom Week's just been able to get past pretty easy and pretty swiftly, going up into P14 there. And further down low, as we do see there's going to be contact once again between those two drivers, and that is going to be, we'll get a bit of a replay on what just happened there. As we do see going into what is one of the final corners, we do see Vil in front of him. Is this going to be any sort of issue? Yeah, it does seem he brakes very, very late there, and it does seem Halovac just absolutely destroys Vil there, and Vil's not going to be too happy there. Vil going into, well, it does seem, yeah, no, it does seem that Halovac luckily waited there for Vil, which did sacrifice him quite a few positions as well. So we're saying no, the right here is probably one of the cars I am supporting in this series. If you don't see many of these cars around at all anymore. And him being quite far up in Red Bull Ring, I forgot what position he came in Red Bull Ring, but he came quite, well, far up in the orders, which is really good to see. Seeing this car was discontinued in the 1.7 patch, I believe. So it's not getting any of the updates, so that is why it's one of the cars that are, well, discontinued and not so fast and competitive compared to some of the others. But we do also see in the background as well is Basto in the BBS racing car getting on the slipstream of Hutton's buttons there. Surprised there is no Lexus rocket ship on the straights. I'm also quite surprised. I might be down to Bop. I'm not sure what Bop they're using. They get very, very close. It does seem Hutton Buttons is at risk of losing his position going into turn 9 there. He goes very, very wide, which just opens the door there for Basto to go up into position 16. But they are still very close with each other. Is there going to be any sort of retaliation here from Hutton's going into the final few corners? At the moment, he's not being able to provide that attack that he should be doing, as we do see Ville as well in the background. If these two cars battle for too long, we will see them two catch up as well of Halovac and Ville. As we can see, he's actually been able to gain quite a bit of time there on him just in those final few corners. But going back to the Lexus, yeah, I'm surprised there's not as many Lexus. Well, no Lexus in this at all. It might be down to Bop. I'm not sure what the Bop is on this server. I think I can check on the timetable. There is a Bop on this server. I'm not sure what the Bop is. It might be LFM Bop. It might be a different Bop. I'm not too sure. But it is probably nerfed all of the cars to be a bit more diverse in grids. But we do see quite a few of the manufacturers now, which is good to see that the grid is becoming more diverse because of these bops that are being provided by third-party companies such as LFM, Pit Skill, and other providers. Jeremy Swanson, a reach-around racing Mercedes, now all over the back of Victor, who had that drive-through penalty, so he should be further up in the order. If Victor was just overtaken Jeremy for position, I'm not too sure, but there isn't any sort of retaliation just yet from Jeremy Swanson, so I'm assuming in terms of last lap times we can see between these two that the last lap time by Jeremy Swanson was a 155.4 and the last lap time by Victor is a 155.5, so there is actually a tiny bit of a gap there between them both, but Victor's last lap time was invalidated, so I'm starting to contemplate whether Victor's last lap time was an anomalous lap time. But it does seem actually no, Jeremy Swanson being able to get past pretty swiftly and easily there. But are we going to see any sort of retaliation here from Victor? I'm not sure we are, as he just tucks himself behind. 5:38 AM in game time now, so it's starting to creep up into the higher time. 60 minutes left to go. Car going a bit wide there. I'm not sure who that is. That might be, is that, I think that might be Paul. It might be, I'm not too sure if it is, but it does seem that Alexander Kakovic in P4 at the moment with the number 24 Mercedes. CrowdStrike Racing by Rowley Motorsports. Car as he is putting some pressure on Arlavi. For once it's not Elmstrom who's putting pressure on him, it's now Kakovic, so it has been a complete change of car putting pressure here on Arlavi. In terms of last lap times between each other, they are very, very close in terms of lap times. Alexander being able to set a 155.745 and then Arlavi saying a 154.780, so a 400th of a second or so between them both, so not too much at all if you're speaking of figures, but it does seem Alexander is gaming very marginally between them both. Ville now trying to overtake there, trying to put a bit of pressure on Basto just by doing a bit of a juke line there. Loses quite a bit of time by doing that though, sacrificing time to try and see if he can sacrifice Basto. That's a very gruesome way of putting it, but it could be classed as true. Now we also see now the Itris fighting with each other. We do see Enrico Itri and then Axel Itri, who we haven't seen too much at all in this race. I'm assuming they're relatives, as they are both in the E3 Racing liveries as well. back down further in the grid. We do see now Harley Bryan putting a bit of pressure now on what seems to be Halivac for position. You do see he's been able to go side by side onto the long back straight, but we do see Halivac has the advantage point of having the inside line. Which is it going to matter? Who's going to have the overspeed in the end? It does seem the BMW is going to have the advantage in both ways in terms of speed and positioning on track. And Halivac stays in the lead of this battle for now, it seems. Haven't seen Dean come into the pits just yet. He's trying to build a bit of a time, I'm assuming, as he goes past his friend Vil. Dean leading with about 11.5 second gap to his name so far, so he is gaining quite a bit of time. He has to go into pits is going to be a minimum of about 33 seconds for him, so he is going to lose a bit of time, but obviously all the way down to P9 have not pitted so far, and just by looking at the maths at the moment, he might be very, very close here with Propeller to try and lead this race here. But 12 minutes left to go. I'm not sure when Dean's going to pit. If he's going to pit on the complete last lap, and if he's doing hot laps to the end of the minute. But in terms of fastest lap times, his last lap time was a 1:55.2, and Propeller's was a 1:54.5. So there is a bit of a time difference between them both, to say the least. Does seem Victor's been able to get closer, but still not close enough to position he wants to be in. Victor still staying in P8. Jeremy Swanson doing quite a good job at the moment of staying in front of Victor after Victor makes a tiny bit of a mistake in the previous laps, which did cause Victor to go into P8 and Jeremy Swanson to go into P7. 11 minutes can Jeremy be able to hold him off for that period of time. As well, though the Itcheries are starting to battle with each other, it does seem, and Rico Itchery makes a tiny bit of a juke move on his fellow Itchery going into turn 8, but it does seem to lose him time as he goes quite wide there into turn 9. That is going to lose him quite a bit of time to the other Itchery, and in fact they have created a bit of a gap from themselves. It's about a second now between them both, just from that small mistake that Enrico made. Victor now having that slipstream going into the back straight. Is he going to be able to go side by side with him going into turn 8? It does seem he's going to have the overspeed on Jeremy Swanson to try and get this position back, because we do see there is a yellow flag. I'm not sure who that is. There is a yellow flag though on the track map. It does seem Victor is able to get past with flying colours before turn 8 there, as he takes his original position of turn 7 of position 7. Nine minutes left of racing. Going further down as well, we do see now Brian being able to get closer and closer to Halivac again for position. This has been happening again for quite some time. Halivac being able to just defend himself from the pressure of Bride behind him. But can he survive the next 9 minutes with that pressure? As he is now a 10th between them both as they try to go side by side with each other. It doesn't seem Halivac is going to give him enough space to try go for it, and it does seem Halivac has the inside line as well into turn 1, which is a very, very key advantage point, as well as Paul Mitchell as well going onto the back straight with Hutton's buttons. It does seem a tiny bit of an understeer moment, it seems, from Paul Mitchell, but he does get up into the lead of this battle, going up into P26, and Hutton's buttons going down into P27 there, as we do go back on board with the Halivac stuff. It does seem it goes very, very wide there. I'm not sure what happens there, and there's a car going very slow there as well, so we do see now going on board with them. Do they make contact? I'm not too sure just yet. Going into the final corner, it does seem they do make contact, but I'm not really sure what happened there between them both, but that is going to cause both of them to have a tiny bit of damage going into the final corner. Halivac actually gets a drive-through penalty for speeding in, well, not speeding in pit lanes of track limits there. That is going to play a huge spanner in the works here between Brian and Halivac. With only 7 minutes left, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to gain that certain amount of time before the end of this race. In fact, he might even lose another position as well. No, Radistas is the other car behind Brian, who's about 1 minute and 27 seconds behind. So he is, well, safe for P34 at least. Ed Rev Rock in the BMW M4 now putting a bit of pressure on Dabrowski in the Aston Martin. In terms of what happened earlier and why the stream was late, it wasn't actually late. So what happened, and this is really, really complicated to explain, but basically I thought, well, originally I thought I was using the wrong stream key and I was broadcasting to another major's account, but that didn't actually happen, and I thought I was streaming obviously to a different broadcaster's account under the Pro League Racing brand, which would have been absolutely catastrophic for me, but that never happened. But what has seemed to happen is it does seem the stream key almost broke, because I was using the original stream key for PLR, but it did seem it just had a bit of an issue, so I had to generate a new one, and everything was working in the end. So very complicated to find in the end, but at least we were running in time. If I didn't get that ping in the season 2 chat, I don't think I would have noticed, so that's always good. Hopefully that shouldn't happen again now, unless YouTube starts being YouTube and bugging out again, but we'll have to find out what happens with that later on. Paul Mitchell low currently in P26, putting more and more pressure there on what seems to be Ricardo Colombo in front of him in the E3 Racing Ferrari 296. 5 minutes left to go in this race. Swanson, Omega Lol strategy. I'm not sure what's happened with him though. I'll check now, but we do see Vale putting pressure on Baster to get past. It does seem he's able to get past. There's going to be a switch there back from Baster. No, there is not. It's going to be a bit of an unsettlement of the car going through the mid-corner point of turn 8 there. It does also seem Vinks being able to get past Enrico Itri after they were battling for too long, and Vinks being able to go up into P19 there. Swanson still in Swanson. Yeah, it seems he still needs to pit. Dean also needs to pit as well. With only 4 minutes left to go, is he going to come in this lap? No, he is not. He's going to wait as long as he can. He's been able to make a 22-second gap now to Alavi behind him. Alavi, who hasn't pitted as well. Same with Alexander Kakovic. And then Ivo Zorakic as well. Followed then by Jeremy Swanson, as you were just mentioning. And it does seem Witter as well hasn't pitted. And I think that is everything. As we also do see Jeffrey Witter as well hasn't pitted. And that seems to be everyone in terms of who hasn't, well, pitted. So there's still quite a few drivers leaving it to last minute. This will probably be their final lap to actually pit safely. So do you see now Jeremy Swanson goes side by side with Nico. Nico getting the inside line going into the penultimate corner, which does just, well, Jeremy Swanson has to let that happen as he keeps the door open for him, and he just has to let Nico in as he comes into the pits. Now Jeremy Swanson taking as much fuel as he probably can. Well, no, he's going to take probably about 1 litre of fuel, as probably everyone's going to be doing. So it's a very similar pit strategy for most of the casters. We do see Chris Broadman still in the pit, seeming to retired from this race a good few minutes ago. He does come in. We do see him going up on the jacks. When he's going down, though, he has just came down there. So quite a short pit stop there for him. Not sure if he added a bit more fuel in than 1 litre. It did seem like it, but it might have just been from my end. But now back on with Basto and the pressure, trying to put pressure on Vil to try and get his position back in the Ferrari 296 of the Broken Bones Sim Racing car. So as we do see James Terry car, we haven't seen too much during today as well, just being in the distance as well. So there is a lot of pressure here, especially on Vil. If Vil just makes a small mistake, he could lose the best part of 3, nearly 4 positions. If just from the smallest of mistake in placing your car wrong. So we do now see Dean has came into the pit lane to serve his pit stop. We will see where this lands him up at, as we do see Alavi will probably have to come into the pit this lap as well. Will Propeller be able to overtake him in terms of the lead of the race? As it does seem Dean is in his pit box. Is he going to be able to come out just yet? At the moment he is coming out. Is he ahead of Propeller? Propeller currently being, he is ahead of Propeller by quite the margin at the moment. Now Dean going out, still in position number 1, going into turn 1, has still quite a comfortable lead to his name there. So good strategizing there from Dean Zanabovic. Again, this is the last lap drama for these 3 drivers. We do see now there's going to be side by side here between Basto and Vink. Is that Vink or is that, no, I'm not sure who that is. I think that might be James Terry. That is going to be James Terry going side by side that with Basto for position, and there is going to be a bit of contact between both of them. That is going to unsettle Basto's Ferrari 296 quite a lot. Is that going to be a track cut for Basto? It doesn't seem he has been giving a drive-through penalty yet, so he's still either on minimal track cuts or that wasn't a track cut in general. This is still quite a rowdy battle here between all 3 or even 4 drivers now. It's just a bit of a train starting to gain here. 6:25 in game time. So we will see the leader come on to the final lap now. I believe it could be 20 seconds left. Will he time this right, or is he going to have to do another lap? I'm assuming he might have to do another lap. It's going to be very close. Is he going to do the strategy of not doing a final lap? Let's see as he comes across the line. Is he going to do a... It's going to be very close. In fact, he isn't going to have to do a final lap as he comes across the line to take the win for round 2 here at Paul Ricard. Going to Dean. That was a very, very sweaty race there for him. And he does extend his championship points by quite a margin. Propeller, give yourself a pat on the back. You did not make that easy for Dean at all. Nico finishing in P2, followed then by Elmstrom and then Alavi, and then Propeller just up the road there as well. He's probably not going to be the happiest of people there for him, as we do see Alexander Kukovic currently in P6, then Ivo Zorikic coming across the line, as well as Blackick as well. Blackick, Declan Brogan in P8, followed then by obviously Blackick, and then Jeremy Swanson Going through the final corner now for the reach around racing. It comes across, it does seem now a few of the cars are leaving the session, so it does make it a bit difficult to see who is joining and leaving the game here. But in terms of everyone who has finished, we are very close as we do see the final pack or so of drivers coming across the line. Well, coming across the final corner now to go across the line. It seems Vil is still able to hold it off going into the final corner. It does seem he's made a bit of breach in security, though. Is that going to cause anything? No, Vink stays behind Vil for position, and Vil stays in P14. And all of the drivers crosses the line now. Itri P19, Edad P20, Halavak P21, Daniel Montero coming across the line in P23, and then Ricardo Colombo, who's not finished the race just yet, going across the line. Final person to cross the line in P21 to take the finish of the race there. In terms of what happens during that, then, definitely one of the more interesting races, to say the least. We had quite a few ups and downs for a lot of the drivers. There was obviously the start of the race, which is very interesting for Vil as well. Vil having that a bit of a moment, getting pit maneuvered by another car, which he's not going to be very happy about. Obviously, all of the races you do see today are going to be... They're all going to be... What's it called? They're all going to be provisional. Stewards will be doing all of the stewarding to make sure all of the stuff is final there. So we do now just go on board and take what is going to be the race replay. So I'll actually quickly just make sure we are going. As in terms of replay, I am sure we do see quite an interesting start to this race here, as it does seem starting the race, everyone did seem to go quite cleanly. Some of the drivers were going through wide quite well, close into the race already, just trying to get past as many people as they could very early into this race. You could just see how densely packed that part of the track was, and that is where we did see Vil going into the wall there, which did cause his race to be pretty much done there. So we do see as well just a few other drivers being able to gain quite a few positions on the start, as we do see there's another that is going to be, I think that's Declan, but that's the Broski, sorry, going off as well. So there are quite a few punts that did happen during the race, but in terms of what happened, I think everyone was able to make it quite relatively clean, as I say that, and there's two other cars going off there. But I have been your commentator for tonight. I have been Alex, also known as Aces in the Discord, the commentator for Season 2 of the World Tour at Pro League Racing. I will see you guys next week, or whenever the next race is, which is next week on Monday of the 22nd of April, I believe. I will see you then, and have a great rest of your night. Goodbye.